Longtime fan suspicions are confirmed as Reed's visit to his father Otto reveals the hidden Strucker family pedigree. Specifically, his grandfather and great-aunt Andreas and Andrea von Strucker, aka Fenris. Mutant terrorists whose powers are eerily similar to that of the current Strucker siblings. It's The Gifted, Season 1, Episode 8, Threat of Extinction. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Gifted. So yes, of course, spoilers, they are coming. Alright, so, some nice reveals on this episode. Not entirely surprising. It's good to kind of get fan theories confirmed. But really, it's kind of an exposition episode. Kind of just stories moving forward, a little bit of action, which was nice, and sort of wrapping up some emotional through lines here. So let's dive into the big part of the episode this week. And that's, of course, John and Reed's visit up to Chattanooga in order to go see Dad Otto. And that's one thing that kind of gets me. Despite how much they are being pursued by Sentinel services, nobody ever seems to have a problem traveling. A couple hours this way down south to Baton Rouge, up to Chattanooga. For a mutant group that is concerned and sort of cut down because Sentinel services and everybody is cracking down on all their safe houses, they seem to have no problem traveling. But that's just one little point. The scenes, honestly, with Dad, I felt to be kind of the weakest of the episode. It was just sort of annoying. I mean, we get a little backstory of Reed being sick with the kid and Dad not being there and him being distant, which might have meant a little bit more as we go on and have the rest of their sort of meeting, except the fact that we just get this information now and it sort of pays off 5-10 minutes later on in the episode when they have their dialogue of why weren't you there when I was sick? It doesn't have the same emotional connection, I think. Also, because Dad felt pretty much disposable from the get-go. If he had been interviewed with Sentinel Services, you would think they would at least have a guy on him watching him all the time. As opposed to just like today, where Roger decided to go up and sort of check on him. I mean, there's a little bit of stuff like that, but the feeling was that he was not meant to be around long. So his whole arc this episode was not entirely surprising. But of course, the real reveal we get is kind of that longtime fan controversy. As soon as you gave this family the name Strucker, that automatically makes people think of Baron von Strucker and Andreas von Strucker and Andrea von Strucker. I mean, these are famous Marvel characters. So realizing their connection to them was a nice, not surprising, but a nice confirmation to what we thought. You know, and it's kind of opening up stories that way. Now, Fenris, a.k.a. Andreas and Andrea von Strucker, the Strucker twins, were children of Baron von Strucker, but were not mutants themselves. Actually, induced mutants. They were given their powers. But longtime foes of the X-Men, so naturally that they would be included here. Now, their characterizations, actually, they were kind of like, yes, they were leaders of Fenris, the terrorist organization. They seem a lot more serious in this show, which was great, because in the comics, they were kind of like, 60s jet-setting villains. Hey, we're doing big game hunting and we're going to big parties and then maybe we'll try and take over the world or be a little terroristy on the weekend if we don't have any other party plans. So that's kind of their whole personality, which we got a little bit of a feel for it here, but they seem to be a little more in charge. Yes, their power sets are when they are together, when they're holding hands, they can shoot out beams and control of energy. Very powerful, very nice. But little change that we had here is, separately, they had no powers. They were just regular people. Only when they were together, only when they were holding hands, would they establish their powers. So, little bit of a change here, giving them the same power set as Andy and Lauren. But that gives us our through line, which is, of course, with the fear that Otto seems to have had, that mutants could be so dangerous. Also interesting that in the 50s, in the newspaper article, they were described as mutants. So that's showing that in this world, mutants were recognized 60 plus years, 70 years ago. That's kind of an interesting bit of a change. But, so Otto is the son of Andreas, the brother. And then, of course, he had Reed. Now, Otto seems to have been a mutant himself. I guess he just hid his mutant abilities, was trained, something happened to his parents. We haven't learned. I'm sure that will probably be revealed as we discover a little bit more, as the kids kind of get a little bit more connected with their powers and such. I'm sure that's going to be part of the big arc that we're going to be following for the rest of this season. So that we found out so Otto gets raised, something happens to the parents, he is fearful of, because of who his parents were, that he ends up going to Trask and working on a mutant suppression serum, suppressing the X gene. Can't come up with a serum that works generally, but is able to come up with one that will work on his son, Reed. Which explains Reed's sickness and why Dad wasn't there, because he was sick for so long and Dad did it to him and he couldn't stare at his face, and there, we have the obvious kind of Dad wasn't there for me, and then Dad's story is, no, I wasn't there, but I was doing everything I could for you. Unexpected but cheesy kind of family dynamic, and again, because he felt disposable, it didn't feel like a whole lot. Now, the interesting thing is okay, so he suppresses Reed's X gene, but just in him, it is still passed on, which is why the kids have it. Now, while he was working at Trask on suppressing the X gene, when Roderick came in, he found his work, after Roderick came in, Campbell came in, restarted Trask, used Otto's serum in order to create the serum that amplifies the X gene. The drug referred to in this known as Kick. And Kick is kind of cool, one, because it is an actual comic book. That's from the Grant Morrison run of X-Men, which was nice, and not the only reference for Grant Morrison. Esme, the telepathic girl that pops up, also from Grant Morrison's run. So kind of a nice little double reference here for that. Now, when I said that Otto's scenes were kind of the weakest, I mean, again, there's really just exposition. It's just storytelling there with some emotional, disposable emotional fluff added on top of it. But really, it comes down to a few ideas. One, okay, if he had been interviewed by Sentinel Services and had worked for Trask and had done all of that, wouldn't they have just sort of set a guy on him? You set one guy on the dad, you set one guy on the mom, on Reed's mom and dad, just in case they get contact. You bug their phones, you keep a guy on top of it. Really, I was expecting when we had Roderick zooming up there that was why, that some spotter had spotted him up there. To get there, the idea that it's just like, hey, I think we should go and check on this because he probably doesn't have any other choices, and it just happens to be at the time and the day when Reed is up there, little bit of a coincidence. I mean, yeah, I'll still go with it, but still, that would have just made things a little bit more interesting. Also, when he goes down, when they settle the whole thing out there, John tells Otto about Pulse. They're suppressing the abilities. First of all, why does Otto's abilities work? Now, it could be because you have different power levels, and he's a stronger power level than Pulse's, and therefore might be able to get his powers to override that. But there has been no discussion at any point in the show about power abilities or anything like that. They have said that some abilities are more powerful, but nothing about a range of an ability to manifest them or anything like that. So that was kind of weak. You also don't know why Otto would think that if mutant abilities are being suppressed, that his ability would still work. Though when he went down, that was explicitly sort of what he said. And he also gives that little bit of line. I mean, I understand his fear of parents being terrorists, and now he sees his grandkids having the same power set, and that's sort of reflective of him. But this also is showing a lot of internal mutant hatred, of self-hatred from Otto's standpoint, of really disliking who he is so much enough that he's willing to tamper with his son's DNA. So it does kind of give an interesting sort of two sides and view of that. But they never really dive into any more of it, so it's kind of a wasted idea. And then it's just when he does finally blow out, and he kills, and everybody gets scared, why does Sentinel run off at that point? Obviously, Otto blew them up, do his bomb because he's trying to hide something. And I understand Roger possibly being wounded, that they wanted to get him away. But you had several guys. You had 3 cars at least that you had brought up there. You would have thought one person would have at least said, sweep the area, let's see if they're hiding anything. But no, they all leave. And they leave Pulse there, who's not quite dead yet. You think they wouldn't want to leave that type of commodity laying, or that asset laying around. So it felt weak in that sense. That's why I said when Otto's whole experience was just kind of disposable, you knew that he was going to die and not really going to last. But the way he went out, it was just sort of a dumb setup. You have a mutant that suppresses abilities and a mutant that's somehow able to use his abilities when no other mutant has been able to, with no discussion of power sets or reasons why that be. And then you have Sentinel not bothering to even search the area that was obviously blown up to try and cover something up and leave a mutant asset behind. It was cheesy. And the fact that John and Reed then were able to take the bodies, drag them away, and go and bury them. I understand the emotional connection for that, but from a storytelling standpoint, it was just really weak. Now, one of the things that they have sort of hit upon continually here on The Gifted is the idea of combined powers, of something more with the 2 people combining and working together. We had that early on with the scenes between Lorna and Marcos, how showing that her magnetics and his light power can sort of create that aurora borealis effect. And we did have Lauren and Andy first combine their powers between the shield and his ripping apart. It's kind of more telekinetic, it seems like they've been pushing lately, in order to focus powers and to take out the bus. And then, of course, we have the larger connection here between the Fenris twins, who physically combined would be able to create those giant light effects. And the idea that that is something else that the Strucker siblings will be able to work on. So those ideas of combining different mutants in order to create a larger effect, their individual powers to create a larger effect, has been something they've continually reinforced in this show. And I loved the opening sequence, where the sequence where they are getting the mutant refugees out and our mutant infiltrator first shows up. To a great extent, specifically the blending of Thunderbird and Blink. And I gotta say, that just was a personal kind of joyous moment. We've seen it in Days of Future Past. It's certainly been in the comics. But just that kind of idea, just that visual image of her opening the portal so he can jump down and surprise her from the different direction, it was perfect. I mean, in all of that, we have Marcos trying to hold her off with the 2 beams of light so she can't go anywhere to get the setup. It was a beautiful, in that case, sort of 3 combinations of powers working together. So I thought that was something that was handled really well. I also like the idea that we have somebody stepping forward. Esme, our new character, who I believe is going to be a new series regular, stepping up and saying first off, "Hey, I'm a telepath. And something's weird with this person over here." It was nice that we have another mutant stepping forward and using their powers. One of the things that kind of frustrates me a lot. They have really reinforced a lot of these ideas that the mutant underground, they've got a lot of refugees coming in, they're moving people, and they're over capacity. And whenever we see the inside of the HQ, it never looks like that. There's always space. There's not a lot of people crammed in anywhere. We've got Lorna and Marcos' room. It's huge. They got tons of space in there. The Struckers seem to have their own vault, or place where they sort of hang out. It never feels above capacity, and it gets kind of frustrating. One, I don't see the reason, if you're not going to physically show that there's a lot of people around and there's a lot of other mutants and there's a lot of possible resources around, stop doing it. They had an excellent idea when Sage comes and tells John, "Hey, if we've got infiltrators in, maybe we shouldn't keep taking people in." that would be a great way to sort of clamp things down. But John just sort of throws out, and it's the cheesy, it's the expected, we don't turn anyone away. We can't turn good people away just because one of them might be dangerous. It's very goody two-shoes. It's very America. It's very nice. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with the sentiment in its way, but you have a way of dealing with some sort of visual structural problems that you have, because really it only seems like the only mutants that you have in the entire facility are Lorna, Marcos, John, Clary, Sage, and Dreamer. Yeah, and that's it. And of course, the new Strucker twins. But that's it. There's like 6, and half of them are gone most of the time. So really just one of those small things that kind of bothers me, that I wish that they would just find a good reason not to have that around, or stop bringing it up, because it never looks like that place has anybody in it. But as for Chloe, our little mutant infiltrator, kind of a sad story with her. I mean, she looked strung out, she looked injured, her arm was just sort of hanging to her side the whole way. It's dark that we're seeing that they're basically making mutants addicts between that and a certain conditioning where they can't talk, they can't tell anything. Really just sort of a very sad existence. And without the drug, apparently you will die. They get you so addicted to it that if you don't get enough, that seems to have been... They didn't really imply too much the specifics of why she was dying, so I mean that's the only thing that I can... the only thing that I can kind of go with there. But overall, a lot of their treatment of Chloe, I mean, you had the cool little, again, combining the twins' powers, and this is where I'm saying that it seems like Andy's powers are looking to be more telekinetic than just rip apart. In the beginning, it just seemed to tear things apart. But now he seemed to have been able to push Chloe back up against the bars and then have Lauren go and put her shield powers to hold her there. He wasn't like damaging or ripping her apart. So maybe this is a more of a tweak of what Andy's powers are, but we're still, again, having that combination of powers, multiple mutants using their powers together. But throughout all of this, it really was, I thought that you should go and ask Esme, ask the telepath, what was going on from the very beginning, since you have somebody that was uncooperative. Perhaps because she was new, maybe they didn't just think about that, but it seemed a very obvious reason to go after it. Everything else just seemed sort of to stretch things out until Caitlin could get to that decision. We had some unnecessary drama sort of tied up in this episode. First, the Blink Dreamer drama. I was a little annoyed in the beginning how Dreamer just came up and thought that she could just look at Blink and be like, hey, we're cool, right? I know you're tortured by this memory that I gave you. It seems to torture you, but you haven't asked me to remove it yet. But we're cool, right? Obviously not. But they were able to find a nice, I think, closure for that via Nora, the little young girl. Which, I mean, it was a nice storyline. I think it was good probably to have Blink have that little connection to her old foster family and find a survivor of what she feels she had caused herself with leading Sentinel services to the cabin. A little convenient in some ways. The first place they go and they find a girl that just happened to be connected there. But locally, I guess it would probably be the same. I'm not too bothered by it. I did like the idea that at least that would allow Blink to go up and ask Dreamer for some help, so maybe they can find a little bit of closure with their drama and just move forward. We also had a little bit of Lorna Marcos drama going on. Hilarious, a little still upset about Carmen. I can understand that, but I think it was pushed a little too much. Their separation, her disagreement. It is understandable that she is afraid of losing him, afraid of what could happen, of that kind of that dark side and so on. So, I mean, I kind of get that idea. But at least after all the drama, that seemed to pull them together. And that's the only reason why I say it was kind of unnecessary drama, because it seemed to be inserted just so they could have that separation, so that by the end they could close it all up and be together. So I'm glad that it settled out. I just thought it was more than what was really needed. All right, just a couple of small things. One, Blink's shirt, L'Enfant Terrible, which is unruly child, actual translation, tending to mean a clever but unconventional child, usually one that, causes some problems. A little unruly, but a smart one. So, anyway, I just thought that was kind of a cool shirt, very applicable for Clarice and some of the other mutants around there, too. The big guy coming up to cause some problems when we had the tied down mutant. One, where did you come from? Why are you being all up in people's faces right now? Two, kind of a wasted scene. I mean, look, it's there to show the connection between Andy and Lauren, that sort of protective type of idea, and a certain strength that the kids are very strong. But I just thought it was kind of a cheesy scene. I mean, it just makes the big guy kind of look like a bully, which is a little stereotypical. But also he's all tough and angry, and how are you going to do this? And then once it's, Andy does his thing, he's like, okay, well, just, tell us if there's a problem. Okay, we'll go away. It was kind of cheesy. Again, there to show connection between the kids and Andy's strength and protectiveness, but still, I think just, cheesily done. Is it really a good idea to send a drug addict in as an infiltrator? I mean, it seems to put a shelf life on how long they can be away and get anything done. All right, well, I think that pretty much covers everything. Now, we do have a week off. Next episode's in 2 weeks. And we will be heading towards Trask Industries, from what Esme was able to pull out of Chloe's brain there before she passed away. And should be pretty exciting. Also, maybe a little Fenris 2.0 action, as the twins look like the siblings are going to find their twin-like wonder powers coming up. So, very excited to see that. So, if you did enjoy this review, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, comments, throw those down in the section below. Now, you can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe if you are not. It's quick, it's easy, it's one button. You'll catch the rest of these reviews, plus the return of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we're still doing The Walking Dead, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, and Mr. Robot. So, lots of stuff happening. You won't miss any of it if you're a subscriber. Do so by clicking my face right here. And I'll go ahead and throw up our latest couple of reviews right here, and you can check those out. So, that's going to be it for me. Hope you all have a very happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Take it easy. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.